Welcome to another scam awareness video where we're looking again at the latest iteration of a scam we've seen before. Previously it was Artisan jewellers all supposedly simultaneously closing down. This time it's Artisan bag makers. As always, a few of you may find the scams in this video so obvious that you might be tempted to say only stupid people would fall for them. And you may believe that they deserve it. I would like to invite you to channel your clearly superior intellect in the direction of kindness and human decency. Is there anyone you know, perhaps a friend or relative or colleague, who you think might be susceptible to these scams? If so, I'm going to argue that it would not only be better use of your time, but also that it should be your duty as a very smart person to use your power to help those around you and spend a few moments hopefully steering others away from being scammed. Seems like the least you could do, given your enormous mental capacity. So in a previous video, we looked at a whole tranche of people supposedly crafting handmade jewellery who all had a story about their lifelong passion, but also about how this was the final chapter and they were retiring or something, and this was your last chance to buy their unique jewellery. And when we looked at the jewellery, it turned out it was not unique at all. In fact, they were all selling the same cheap dropship tat at a significant markup with misleading pictures and descriptions, despite their claims that the items were actually reduced and a bargain. Well, it's the same kind of story this time. Look, breaking news. I never thought I'd say this, but after a tough year, I'm retiring early and closing my boutique for good. My final handmade quilted bag collection is here, sparkles emoji. Up to 70% off, limited pieces available. Once they're gone, they won't return. If only we were so lucky. Grab your piece of history before it's too late. History? And there's a picture of a person awkwardly holding this supposedly handmade quilted bag, featuring images of cartoon horses that look like they're based on Bullseye, Woody's horse from Pixar's Toy Story. When we click through to the website, we're immediately greeted with a banner saying the sale ends tonight at 11:59. Oh no, the urgencies! But what amazing luck that we happened to be there on Monday the 4th of May in time for that to happen. Aside, I went back the next day, and on Tuesday the 5th of May, the sale was still ending that night at 11:59, and the next day too. Of course, it's a lie. The whole story is a lie. The thing about this person closing their doors after 40 years designing for women is a lie. The existence of the person depicted is a lie. This is an AI-generated image, although I think it's getting harder and harder for people to tell, as well as harder for me to explain exactly why and how I know it's not real. I mean, there's something weird about this hand here, but some people have weird hands, or you could brush it off as a weird camera angle. There's something weird about the chairs, or is that one a table in the blurry background? But some people have weird chairs. There's something unnatural about this glassy stare and the specific juxtaposition of very smooth skin and wrinkles in this depiction of a supposedly real human face. But some people have weird faces, and Photoshop exists. But I know this is an AI-generated image, and I can't express precisely why. If things continue on this trajectory, there's probably going to come a time when I can't reliably tell anymore. But AI images aside, the story itself is fake and is tailored to do two things. Firstly, to try to engage you emotionally. It's a story about a small dream, a wonderful journey, a difficult decision, a closing chapter. But it's also meant to induce FOMO. Not only is the sale ending at 11:59 on some night or other, at least, but definitely today, always today, but it's your last chance, final quantities. Once they're gone, they'll never return. When I click through, there's more of a backstory about dreams and journeys and chapters, lots about chapters. It's all AI-written garbage, and it seems like the capabilities of text models here are not progressing in the way they are with images. AI-written text, at least within these sorts of contexts, is still really trite and trying way too hard. But again, we probably ought to assume that at some point the technology might progress to the point where it's more believable. So what do we do? Well, hold that thought. We will come back to it after we've looked at these few things. Oh no, Susan and Linda are so sorry. Their sale is ending today. Take advantage of our sale. Handmade bags, sparkle emoji. Up until now, we've been crafting each bag by hand with care and dedication. Each piece is more than an accessory. It tells a story. Let me guess, does this story have chapters? And is it a journey? But wait a minute, their supposedly individually handcrafted bag with a patchwork horse head on it looks awful familiar. Weird, isn't it, that Nova, on the previous site we looked at, also claims to have individually handcrafted this bag. And I mean not just a similar bag, the same bag with all of the same individual creases on the material in the same places. When we click through to Susan and Linda's store, though, we find that they are indeed closing down. Apparently the landlord has decided not to renew the rental, and also apparently that's the kind of problem that just has no solution anyone could ever imagine. So therefore they're holding their final ever sale. This is your last chance to purchase your favourite items from Susan and Linda before they close. Susan and Linda also have lots of very similar bags, as we saw Nova claiming to have handcrafted. And by similar, I mean identical. The exact same photos, including that bag with Woody's horse on it, as well as this one, which is clearly inspired by Shaun the Sheep. Aardman's lawyers will be in touch with you shortly. But wait, Claire and Kate would like a word. Our most unique handmade quilted bags are now part of our final collection, as Claire and Kate closes its doors. Oh no, what happened? As usual, this is your last chance. Extremely limited, once sold out they won't return. Claire and Kate didn't even bother to explain why this is their farewell sale, beyond that it's the final chapter of their journey. I hate it when journey chapters are final. Claire and Kate also claim to have crafted, individually by hand, the exact same quilted bags as the previous two, including Patchwork Horse and all your other favourites. They're offering the same sort of multi-buy discounts as the previous two, despite protestations about stock being very limited, so buy now. Same deal with Margot and Grace. Booznap, Claire's Wardrobe, different Claire, spelt with an I, but same bags. Bagsify, and any number of other individually handcrafted quilted bag stores that are closing down today for reasons. Something chapter journey. Two questions I think are appropriate at this point. Firstly, what would you get if you bought one of these? But also, what's going on? I'm not going to test purchase any of these products. You might see other people doing that with scams, and that's their choice, but I will reserve that option for something that needs testing, maybe like a piece of technology that makes grandiose claims. I see no reason at all to test purchase one of these because the range of outcomes are utterly predictable. I'm not going to waste my money on that because neither should you. If you buy one of these supposedly handcrafted quilted bags, you will receive one of these three exciting things. Firstly, nothing at all. The scammers may try to string you along with fake tracking numbers or promises and excuses until it's too late for you to get a refund, or at least too late for that refund to come from them. Secondly, you might get some cheap piece of random dropship tat. Anything that generates a tracking number so they can cash out the transaction and keep you waiting long enough that, again, maybe you miss out on a refund, or if you do get a refund, it's funded by your credit card company, not clawed back from the scammers who are long gone. Thirdly, and I think probably the most likely option, you get a cloth tote bag, digitally printed with a design that sort of superficially resembles the thing you thought you were buying, but it's not quilted, something that's worth a tenth or less of what you paid and that can be ordered with a one-off printed design, dropship from somewhere like this. So, what's going on? Why does it seem like these things are everywhere? Well, the answer to that is the scammers have now got this whole process nearly completely automated. By scripted prompting of an AI model, they're able to generate a collection of designs. They don't care if they're derivative or even if they make sense. They can generate descriptions and accompanying product information, and then flood all of that into a website shop template complete with a shopping cart and payment channels, as well as images and a backstory for the shop owner. On the back end, they just convert customer orders into instructions to a dropshipper to print off or dispatch a shoddy version of something superficially similar to be shipped to the victim/customer. And then create and submit ads to be shown on social media and elsewhere on the web to catch unwary people with pretty pictures, emotional stories, and fake urgency. It's now at the point where probably nearly all of that process is automated. Maybe they still have to do some small parts of the admin, like procuring a domain for the website, but the rest of the process of setting up one of these scammy fake boutiques is very likely just a few clicks and maybe a few keywords to season the prompts already built into their scripts. They can crank out these fake stores with very little effort and minimal upfront cost and such speed and ease that trying to get them shut down would probably be more effort for whoever tried to do that. They can just saturate the space with this garbage, so while you were shutting down one of them, the scammers might have spun up a dozen more. So what do we do about it now that these scams probably outnumber real online stores, and in particular, in the future when perhaps the images and text blurbs on these sites may no longer be discernible as fake and AI generated? I don't know if that will ever actually happen, and I have met people who assert that they will always be able to tell when something is AI generated. I think that's the sort of confidence that will tend to set a person up for embarrassing failure, but even if there are such wise and perceptive people who will always be able to tell, for most of us I think we have to acknowledge that it's harder than it used to be. It's no longer always just a case of counting the fingers or looking for nonsensical text or objects phasing through each other or certain overall colour tones in the image or anything. All of the obvious tells in any particular era of AI-generated stuff are pretty much by definition the problems that the next phase will try and perhaps succeed to solve. In short, whether or not we can rely on AI-generated content always being obvious, we probably shouldn't rely on that. We need to look somewhere else. Unfortunately, the other things to look at aren't so amenable to being swept away by technological progress, because the other things are the very mechanics of the scam itself. That is, the scam is often trying to get you to make a snap decision based on feelings. These scams try to engage with your emotions, recounting some prosaic background story about a craftsperson who labours with love and invests their heart into their work. They're trying to paste this into your memory, to trick your brain into feeling like this fictional person is your lifelong friend. Also on the emotional level, they often tell you a story about how they're bravely facing a big life change, closing down their store, embarking on something final, something chapter, something journey. They're trying to engage your sense of camaraderie and empathy and presenting you with a scenario where you might feel that the protagonist richly deserves some just reward, and they want you to reach in your pocket for that reward. And a different emotion, but a powerful one, the sense of urgency, the finality of the deadline, the urge to act now, very fast, or forever forfeit some opportunity. FOMO, fear of missing out, as it's called. It's not only a powerful motivator to make people act, but it also tends to cause people to pursue that action without due caution. There is no opportunity for you to think, no time to sleep on the idea, not a moment to waste, or you might regret not doing this thing. People just tend to do the thing that seems urgently required to avoid that threatened regret. And these factors in scams will probably not go away or become less common because they're not new. This variety of social engineering, as we might call it now, has been around forever, and it's the stock in trade of scammers. These are the things we probably need to be more conscious of, to try to take a step back from our immediate thoughts and feelings and take a look at ourselves, to observe our own behaviour as though from an outside perspective, to wonder if we're being manipulated, and if so, why. I believe that will provide better resistance to scams than to try to learn to recognise fake images using criteria that might be obsolete next week. This is what we'd call a heuristic approach, to try to understand what something is doing rather than just looking at what it is. If you're being told something is urgent, it's almost never the case that it's so urgent that you don't have time to think, you don't have time to probe the urgency and question the truth of it. If someone is telling you that something is so urgent, and they're not like a member of the emergency services or something, there's a fair chance it's not actually urgent for you at all, and they're just manipulating you. And I think that's the thing we need to guard against, not just to act on what is presented to us. Anyway, that's all we have time for now. Thanks for watching, stay safe from scams, and I hope to see you again soon.